Literature is a reflection of society. Viewers, today we are honored. Our honorable guest is a poet, doctor, and ex-civil servant, Dr. Qaiser Abbas Zaidi. Dr. Qaiser, welcome in our show.
Thank you very much for inviting me to your show.
Please tell our viewers about your childhood and your education.
Oh gosh, as you probably know, I was born in Lahore, which is a city in Pakistan, um, which is called heart of the nation. It's a very vibrant city, very lively, very friendly. So I was privileged to be part of that life. After my schooling, I went to a very prestigious uh, college for doing my A levels, Government College Lahore. Um, uh, Luckily, again, I was born in a family which had migrated from Delhi to Lahore in 1947 at the time of partition. And luckily, because that family was well known for being a religious scholar. I mean, generation after generation, we had poets in the family, mostly religious poetry, and representing and at a scholarly level, at a religious level, in that tradition of religious gatherings, what we call majlise. There have been ulamas in it. So as a result, what I got uh, um, uh, um, discussions around religion, discussions around philosophy, discussion around spirituality, and lot of discussions around poetry and literature. So that all became part of me without me knowing about it. And as I was telling you earlier, I did my A levels from Government College Lahore and went into King Edward Medical College. At that time, now it's a university, for doing my graduation in medicine. And luckily, right from the college that I went to, it has a strong tradition of all those activities, literary activities, quiz and debates, and I participated in it. And all through my uh, education during my stay at King Edward Medical College, I was a very active participant in all those activities, debates and poetry, all those things. So this is in brief. But
Dr. Qaiser, literature and medicine, especially in educational system in Pakistan, there are two different words because mostly people from the arts subject background, they choose literature and they go to poetry or these type of activities. So can I say that this was your family system that which you have adopted or you have learned from your elders, and that's why uh, God has gifted you this extraordinary qualities?
uh, I mean, whether you say it extraordinary or just those qualities that I believe everybody has in themselves. We have cognition, we have aesthetics, and it's a matter of your environment and your own willingness to evolve it or to increase it. It depends what you are interested in. Yes, I would say that in my case, it was mainly my family background that had, as I say, part of me without me knowing it. So my interest in literary pursuit was because of that. But I would also remind one fact that in Urdu literature, there are lots of names, very famous names who have performed exceptionally well. both in medicine and in literature, like Dr. Shafiqur Rahman or Dr. Anwar Sajjad. So there is a tradition there as well. Uh, yes, in my case, it was mainly the family and then my own interest in it. So I was able to keep up with both sides, uh, excelling as much as possible in my profession and in my hobby, I would say.
For a short period of time, you joined civil service. So please share your experience that it was how you, went to that side of the world, because that is also a new experience for being a doctor, joining civil service. So how was that?
Yeah, I mean, going through doing MBBS, I must admit there was a point when I felt that probably I'm not a very suited person to touch other people, to operate on them, or to palpate and all those things. So there was a period when I thought maybe I should do something else. And in late 80s, there was a trend among medical graduates to go for the civil services examination, CSS examination. And I also tried that, and I did it twice. In my first attempt, I was in a group which gave me some experience in working for government of Pakistan within the ministries affiliated with establishment division. And second time, I got the offer to be assistant commissioner in income tax. I had already spent a few years working in Islamabad. It was a very rich experience, I would say, both in expanding my horizon about life in general and the society as well. Um, uh, I felt that in some ways I'm probably more suited to be a doctor again. Um, and at the same time, I made lots of friends there, lots of lovely people, enterprising with lots of other attributes to their personalities. And I still am in contact with all of them and enjoy their company and their spheres of interest and aspects of personality. Yes, after some years, I did feel that there is a doctor in me, and that wants to be the doctor. And in the end, I ended up in something which probably I think I should have picked up right from the beginning, and that is psychiatry, mental health. The moment I landed in psychiatry in the UK, I felt at home. I felt that is where I should have been. Probably this is one profession which is combining both aspects, my profession as a doctor and my aesthetics as a person who feels, who likes to listen, who likes to understand, and who is more interested in mind, and who is more interested in human beings,
So one of
basically.
your,
So
sorry for interruption. One of your keen subject was the spiritualism, and especially your poetry about spirituality. So how you will say that it can link with the medicine, and because when people wants to feel, or they try to find a peace in inner self. So please tell your thoughts about this link, that how somebody can feel inner peace with the help of the peaceful poetry or powerful wordings?
It's interesting that you asked me that question. Recently, I made a presentation on poetry in mental illness. If I first touch on medicine and poetry, I think, as I mentioned earlier, there is always an artist in every scientist, and probably there is a scientist, always a scientist in every artist. These are two aspects of every human being. It's just a matter of who is which field you have chosen and which field you have focus your energies and spend more time in. Um, Being in medicine means you are a scientist and you have a logical thinking. You create hypotheses. You like to test those hypotheses, and that's how human knowledge progresses. But at the same time, when it comes to application of known knowledge in given scenarios, and especially in medicine, you are dealing with human beings. So application of those rules or methodologies that you have discovered or validated through scientific means, application of those rules is an art. And art always involves your aesthetics. And I think being in touch with both ways of uh, both ways of feelings, I should say, that as far as you approach problems, you approach difficulties, your approach should be scientific. And as far as you, when apply those scientifically discovered facts on human being, you need an artistic approach. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So, luckily for me, I came in mental illness, and I found my literary attributes very useful in enabling me in connecting with the people and helping me both both with the knowledge that I have in psychiatry and also my understanding of human beings that I have learned through literature.
Along with spiritualism, so what are other subjects you have touched upon in your poetry? Your book, one is the Dasht eTanhaie, the other is Sahil Arzoo. And do you mind to share the names of your other books and the subjects you have touched upon?
Uh, yeah, I mean, the subjects mainly, uh, uh, obviously, going through your life, you go through different phases. So most of my poetry in my earlier books, like Dasht eTanhaie, is romantic, and it is a very strong emotions at a particular age. And I found romanticism in everything around me, um, be it something from the environment and be it in the human beings around me. I found beauty in everything, and I tried to feel it, and I tried to connect it with me being as a person. And then, as the title suggests for the second book, by the time that book was published, I had felt that, I mean, through my poetry, I always had a question. I mean, within all that romanticism, when you go beyond feeling something, you want to reason out things as well. Then there's a big why, how, what, and where that comes to your mind. And for some years, uh, I continue on that path, and at some point, the realization was that I have reached a destination where I have understood that all the answers lie within you, and connecting with a bigger divine power, which is running through the whole existence. And once I was able to reconcile those two things, me and the great creator, I thought I have reached the shore of the ocean that I have been through. Yes, majority of my poetry initially was mainly romanticism, but with some spiritualism, lot of questions, then answers. And that's how around that time I turned toward my family tradition, writing poetry about religious themes. And over the last 10 years, I have a big collection of religious poetry. Um, but unlike tradition, my religious poetry explores less of religious beliefs, but more of that spiritual strength that you can get from your role models within the religious domain. And I've tried to express that using that spiritual strength to enhance your capacity to produce some results within your life, and be more productive and more optimally productive. I mean, like doctor is well known, they are very knowledgeable, and they prescribe and they just order things. But I like to connect with my patients as a human being, and all my literary attributes, and then these religious spiritual connections have helped me to understand human beings more and more. And I learn every day.
So your
I
mode of
should say that.
your mode of expression is mostly Urdu, not in English, because our viewers mostly have studied William Shakespeare, John Keats, William Wordsworth. So, do you mind to share some of translation of your stanzas or some pieces of your poetry with our viewers, or the translation of your poetry, please?
Yes, I mean, on occasions, there have been some pieces of my poetry which have been translated. At the moment, I can uh, present a translation of uh, a little poem, you can say, or a three verses. Uh, it's mostly these three verses are again about an emotion which we all have. I mean, in terms of psychiatry or psychology, we know this big theory, attachment theory. The humans are all biological beings. Uh, their emotional strength comes from their attachments from the very beginning. We are attached to our mother. We are attached to our parents. We are attached to our siblings, our family, our society, our language, our culture, our nation, and then overall human beings. So, stronger these attachments are, stronger we as a person are. When we are born in a certain country, it's inevitable that you have attachment to that country. And when we migrate, immigration is a big predisposing factor to mental illness, because you never forget your roots. You have nostalgia. Yes, you move on, but it is a feeling that you rejoice, and it's a feeling which, if you can use it positively, is a very strong feeling. So these three verses, I've just described these emotions as a sort of background to these three verses, which I'm going to present. Uh, Although I would say that in translations,
Philosophy is totally different
it's very
sometimes.
difficult to bring out the beauty of the initial creation. But I mean, whatever it is I'm presenting, it's uh, um, like a never-ending spring. I live in the garden. Now that garden is my homeland. Like a never-ending spring, I live in the garden. Like a magical fragrance, I reside in the flowers. The ambience of my homeland clothes my soul. The ambience of my homeland clothes my soul. This is the apparel of my being and my person. Such is the link between me and the motherland. I am away from home, but always at home. So this is a little narration of my feeling, how I am living away from my home. I live in the UK, and I'm happy here and I'm naturalized here. But at the same time, within me, there is a little Pakistan where I belong to, and I'm able to have both things with me. Uh, Outside me, it is this country which is dear to me, and inside me, there is my homeland, and I'm able to live in that homeland even if I'm living here. So I feel at home in both ways. That is the gist of that poem.
We also appreciate your contribution for NHS because being a doctor, you have worked with you are part of the NHS. Now you're working as a consultant in a like a freelance. So please also share your experience because your father was also a poet, and so what kind of poetry was his subject? You know, what subjects he has touched upon?
I mean, he was a religious poet in a very traditional sense. There is a form of poetry in Urdu literature called Marsiya. This is basically written in commemoration of uh, grandson of Prophet Muhammad, how he stood for the truth and he gave his life and his sacrifices. And there is a big tradition, especially in Urdu literature, people writing poetry around those sacrifices. And those tradition of marsiyas are these are long poems, as you know. So my father was a significant name in that sort of kind of religious poetry and in those circles. For me, as we were growing up, he always advised to give priority to education, and anything else would come later. So in my life, becoming a doctor, yes, for a period of time, I tried something else, but my feelings for the human beings and to work for them brought me back. And working through the NHS has been an immense experience. Yes, later on in life, these days, I have been working mostly in private sector, but we deal with the patients which NHS is unable to deal with, more complex and more complicated issues. I mainly deal with forensic patients, that is, those who come to the mental health side through violence. So all those people who are in legal services at the point of prosecution or after being prosecuted. So it's an interface between mental illness and offending behavior. So these are very complicated mental health issues which we deal with. Um, uh, I forgot what your original question was.
It was about NHS, but now we move forward. So